So this is a beautiful panel, isn't it? A utility panel. That's what we need, ladies and gentlemen.
Hold the applause. No, no bother.
So this is Sam Salisbury of Centrica, Diaz Pilas of Iberdrola, Fabio Tentori of Enel, John McKiernan of ESB. Sam, tell us a little bit about Centrica Innovations.
Sure. So Centrica, 27 million customer accounts. When I look at utilities, I see two different strategies. Some are moving very heavily into the assets, and others are moving very fast away from the assets towards the customers. And we're definitely in that latter strategy. So we've put our E&P assets in a joint venture. We've sold off all our big wind farms, our big power plants. We're really focused on the customers now. An important part of that is innovation. And so we set up Centrica Innovations, £100 million corporate innovation fund to help us bring ideas from outside our company inside and really accelerate them. We start at the very early stage, so we have an accelerator. We start with accelerator programs and seed investments, and we can follow through growth and up to commercialization. Broadly, I talk about two things. Technology and new services is what I'm looking for. So in the households, for example, in the new services, we've just launched an active aging challenge. We're looking for startups that use technology to help people age in their homes better. And in the technology place, we're looking for stuff that will help our existing connected homes offer. And here, contextual AI is right at the top of our list. For businesses, we really want to help businesses transition to that sustainable energy future, the distributed future that we all see. And so there's lots of technology that goes into that. And in fact, we've been building that business through acquisition. We started with Panoramic Power, which is wireless sensors. We just acquired Restore, which is VPP. We acquired NEAS, which helps us bring that power capacity to market. And so we're looking for stuff that will complement that. And the last thing I'll add is about our things that Centrica needs to operate really efficiently. And earlier this year, we did an investment in LO3, which is blockchain for energy. And we see that as incredibly disruptive to our industry, and we want to be participating in that. So that's one example of what we'd look at.
Do you think that blockchain is going to happen in the energy industry?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's just a matter of when.
Who believes, who does agree? Raise a hand. Who disagrees? Okay, there will be some fighting going on. Oh, wow. Diego, you don't believe in blockchain?
I think blockchain will have applications in our industry. The whole transactive power application, that's the one I'm not so sure about. So I do believe there are several applications like renewable certificates for sure, asset identification and specifically trading, algorithmic trading, but the whole peer-to-peer transactive energy, I think it will happen, but not enabled basically by blockchain. That's the point.
Now it's the chance for you to give us a small pitch about Iberdrola and how you look at open innovation and corporate venturing and what you have done recently.
Cool. So Iberdrola, a pretty boring vertical integrated utility, 30 plus million customers, 50 gigawatts of power roughly installed worldwide, 60% of that renewables. So that's like our major focus in terms of generation. Working with the startups, we've been around for almost 10 years now. We started our startup program in 2008. And I think it's important that we add to this conversation as utilities that we contribute for this relationship between the startups and utilities to be sustainable somehow, because you know, in this period, we've seen a lot of utilities coming in and out of this business, and that's obviously you can respect. But the usual pattern for that is, you get a new CEO on board, and he says, you know what, this is going to be the next big thing around next year, so I'm going to put in $50 million in this fund, and I'm going to invest a lot of money here. And 3 years after, new CEO on board, and he says, what, $50 million for this? So I'm closing this down. And I think it's important as utilities and large corporates that we are able to be sustainable in the way we actually work with the startups. And in order to be sustainable, we need to have a clear, somehow, rationale for working with the startups. It's not like I will have access to the next big thing. Yeah, that's, of course, we all want to, right? But how are you going to do that? That's the real important conversation here. So we are doing basically two things with the startups. We are doing investments. We have invested $55 million, roughly, 13 portfolio companies, exited 3 of them in the last 10 years. And we're also doing pilots. We've done like 35 pilots in this period, giving these startups access to our 30 million customers and to our asset base. So we are somehow a big lab into the utility sector for these startups to do stuff. So a couple of representative relationships and deals that we have done recently. Earlier this year, we invested in a US company called InnoWatts. They do machine learning on smart meter data for actually improving the value chain, not so much focused on customer engagement, like we've seen a couple of examples before, but more focused in improving the way you actually buy and operate with energy in the market. So that's like the approach. And second representative investment, we are an investor in a US company called STEM. They do behind the meter energy storage for C&I customers. And we invested quite early in that one, like 3.5 years ago. So that's in a nutshell what we do. We do investments. We do also pilots, but we try and do that in a sustainable way so that when new CEO comes on board, we still have this very valuable tool for our innovation that is our startup program.
Fabio, tell us a little bit about your approach to open innovation and corporate venturing. I learned yesterday that you have a different approach.
We do have a little bit of a different approach, yes. It's something that we arrived at after a few years of trying with different approaches. First of all, Enel is one of the biggest utility in Europe, and we have many customers as well in Italy, in Spain, and also in Latin America. Our innovation strategy is based on 3 pillars, which is digitalization, renewable energy, and we just launched yesterday, we announced actually to our Capital Market Day, that we just launched Enel X, which is sort of a Google X kind of sort of thing, but it's going to be a little bit less focused on things super disruptive for the future, but things that actually are already important in the energy industry right now. So we are focusing on our customers, and we are offering new solutions in e-mobility, smart home, anything that has to do with smart cities, smart industries, and stuff like that. All of this is driven, of course, by innovation, and innovation is quite an important part of the company strategy. We run 7 hubs around the world. That's what I am responsible for in San Francisco, Tel Aviv, and Moscow, where usually some of the innovation happens, as everybody knows. And then we also have hubs where we scout for startups and collaborations in Chile, Brazil, Italy, and Spain, which are the places where we have the majority of our expertise, because we are pretty well based in those countries. We do not have a corporate venture capital. We don't like investments into equity. We did a few times. But then it ended up that we tended to intrude a little bit too much in the strategy and in the growth of those companies with our processes, which are, of course, we are a big company, and even if the innovation department goes very well and every department goes very fast, but there are some rules as well. There are some very long, slow processes for approval of anything, and the other problem as well is that we are very strongly opinionated sometimes when it comes to energy matters. And if you say to a startup that you don't own, that you have an idea, then they can either take it or they can refuse it. But if you own them, then probably they kind of have to, and you sort of force them to go towards the idea that you have, and you tend to force them a little bit too much to develop something that goes towards your businesses. What we do instead, we offer them knowledge, access to our laboratories, access to our clients, data. We finance projects. If there is anything that needs to be financed, we do put money into the deal. We don't take equity. We offer the possibility to scale up on our businesses after a few months or whatever it takes. And we are an industrial partner and a customer for startups.
It's a really strong message, isn't it? No corporate venturing, no minority shareholding, but really a lot of open innovation. right?
Yeah.
How many startups are you looking at per year, and how many deals are coming out of it in terms of open innovation? Can you give us some idea about quantity?
So I would say in the last couple of years, we have been looking, we have scouted about 2,300 startups for all of the business line of the company. And we have 100 active projects with startups, and 30 of them, 32 probably now, but let's say 30, a little bit more than 30, are already in the scale-up phase. So we actually, either we are using them to offer those services to our customers, or we are using them in our facilities, power plants, and whatever else we do. Out of this as well, sometimes it comes out an acquisition, because not investing into equity doesn't mean that then we don't do M&A. And when we realize that we have a very big technological gap on something important that we might actually offer to our customers, and we believe that the startup is ready, after a few years of collaboration, we might actually get into an M&A deal.
And a while ago, you acquired a big American company.
We did, yeah, Enel.
Enel.
Yeah. It was a transaction in April or May, I believe. Yeah.
Wow.
And we are buying also a few startups. Like we just bought DEN, Demand Energy, and eMotorworks as well, which does a sort of a vehicle to grid and some platform for managing electric vehicles.
John,
ESB is a utility from Ireland.
Yeah, it's very famous. It's the smallest utility, probably, just like, you know, we're boutique. We're big in Ireland, but we're, you know, Ireland's small. But we've got good beer and whiskey, so please come. Yeah, three things you need to know, all right? One, what we're doing, what the utility's doing about innovation. Two, how we're reaching out now in terms of external collaboration. And three, the free electrons program, okay? So, and the context here is, you know, I think the guys will agree, utilities are historically, well, we're in business 90 years. For the first 90 years, we've got a really good run. We've got 90 years out of one business model. Whoa, that's a nice run. It's kind of breaking. It's broken in Germany and it's starting to fracture. So, and during those 90 years, we were, I'm going to say shit on stage. We were shit at working with startups. So the people in this room, bad luck you. We were really bad at working with startups. Which is bad for the startups, that's most of you guys, and which was also bad for the investors in those startups, which is the other people in the room. So bad luck, everybody in the room. The good news is that's all changed. And the reason being is the first 90 years, we didn't need you, sorry, because we had utility model 1.0. It was an ATM, you know, electricity in, money out. That worked fine. But that's all changed now. So here we go now, because, you know, a bit like a shark or something, we've evolved to be the perfect solution for utility 1.0. By definition, we've got the wrong solution for 2.0, which is creating opportunity for all the startups to bypass us, get around us, all of that. But actually, and I would agree with 99% of stuff I said earlier on, except for one point that somebody said, utilities aren't liked. Actually, our customers love ESB. We are really well liked. We had to rebrand our supply business just to get people to change for a 10% discount. We were forced to rebrand. So customers really like us. We're reliable. Somebody accused us at a conference one time of being dinosaurs, and the EDF guy walked away. And I said, well, we're more like elephants. You know, we're not extinct yet, but we are, you know, long memory, slow, and all that stuff. But hey, there's a lot of redeeming features about elephants. You know, big, slow, ponderous, but they're safe, kind of trustworthy. And they do a lot of good work as well. But let's face it, we're not technology developers, right? We know our customers want new stuff. You know, we sell commodities now. Our big innovation was to sell gas as well as electricity, another commodity. So now the customer wants more. You know, I think we all agree that. So, but there's a lot of confusion in utilities. They think there's so many engineers around the place. We're tech companies, but we're not tech companies. We're technology takers. But what we are is a super channel to market. So we've restructured ESB, and we now have a full directorate with 1,000 people in innovation, saying, okay, we can fold up our tents and go home, or fade out into the distance, or we can do something about this and develop a whole new skill set, and we cannot do that by ourselves, which brings us to point 2, external collaboration. I spent 5 years as a partner in Greenco Capital, the advisor to our €200 million fund. I've ejected out of that. Mind you, it was so much fun, a kid in a toy shop, seeing all that great stuff. But actually now what we're doing is saying, actually a little bit like Enel, the real value for us is actually, the market intelligence is fantastic from the VC, but it's how you leverage that back into your business units. That's where the real money is made. That's where the real action is. If we get one product that we can sell to all our customers, flipping a company for 10 or 20 million or 100 million, really, it's exciting for the company, but nobody cares the utility, Anyway, lots of analogies you can come to mind, but let's not go there. So which brings us to the third thing. So how are we going to change that? There's a line of dead bodies outside the doors of every utilities where startups died of old age trying to get in and sell their wares, and everybody wants to sell to utilities because they know if they get in, it's the golden ticket. But they're slow and decision making is different and all that kind of stuff we all know. So we said, okay, how do we change that? I said, how do we make ourselves more interesting to the startups? Let's turn this on its head. Really, really bad to actually wow. So, and I'd like to see Christian presenting to here today from Greencom, fantastic company, and Sarah Bell from Tempest Energy. So those two guys presented, and they were also recognized by the Free Electrons program as two of the top 12 energy startups 2017. Big round of applause for those guys. You. So.
Are you happy with the performance and the power of Free Electrons? Yeah. Okay.
So the key thing, to close out, last point, Free Electrons. How do we make ourselves more interesting? One of your sponsors, Innogy, one of our partners, right? So that buys me another 30 seconds. So Innogy, even they didn't want to do this by themselves, so we partnered up Innogy EDP, Europeans and Californian Innogy office, Daewoo Middle East, Singapore Power, Tokyo Electric, Osnet and Origin, who are now doing a deal with Sarah Bell's company, for example. Collectively, we've 73 million customers. So give or take, 1 in 100 people on the planet are our customers already. We don't have to find them. We have them already. We just want stuff to sell to them. You guys have the stuff. So bring your stuff, tell us how it works, and we'll help you localize it. How many markets are going to localize? Regulatory is different, everything. But we have teams of experts that will help you bring that to our marketplace in one fell swoop. So we put out this big sign. We got 450 companies from 51 countries. We launched in Dubai end of January. By the end of Feb, we had 450 energy startups, 30 from Ireland, amazingly.
Applications, right?
They all came in right across the spectrum of low carbon, even on the periphery, it's a adjacent sector, transport, low carbon meets energy, utilities reaching out into other sectors. How do we pull that in to generate new revenue streams? We picked 12. They went on the accelerator program, San Francisco, Portugal, Dublin, and finished up in Singapore. All 12 of those companies got pilot projects. That was the key thing. You had to be pilot ready, or we don't want to waste your time and you don't want to waste our time. All of them got pilots, and one of them, Aperio, took an investment from EDP in the space of 6 months. That's good.
Yeah. And if Free Electrons, is it open for more utilities? Do you want to have more utilities, or you are just?
We are open. There's a current raging debate, but let's say it's a select group now. So we don't want to become like there's loads of large groups of utilities, and we want to. What we've developed is a chemistry. So yes, the short answer is yes. There will be new utilities in the coming program. There will be another program. Let's back this up a second. We did this as an experiment. Free Electrons itself is a startup, and it was amazing that utilities. You could get 8 utilities to agree something, launch it, 6 months, get it done, another 6 months, and we have results. So everything you thought you know about utilities may be correct in the past, but past performance is not a guide to how actually good we could get in the future. So we've learned from this model. So we're hoping we can maybe do something launching in the not too well. Let's say we'll tell you first. Free Electrons 2 is just coming out of the oven in the next couple of days, and hopefully if we had people well past Series C. One company had 100 million turnover applied, and we said, "Come on!" No, I just want access to your 73 million customers.
Sam, back to you. How do you see competition and cooperation between utilities in Europe? And how do you foster it? For example, there are a couple of startups in the room who have maybe already one utility among their minority shareholders, and then a few people think, oh, now this is companies very much influenced only by one utility, so I always recommend go for 2 or 3 utilities. But for this, you need to find the right mix of utilities probably from different geographies. How do you answer this?
We think about it, or we try to think about it through the lens of the startup.
Yeah.
Our success relies on people coming to us with their ideas, and so we want to put those startups first. We have, in our portfolio company, we have exactly that problem. And I'm constantly trying to open the door to Centrica and say, come and work with us. We want to partner with you, but at the same time saying, if we don't behave, if we're too slow, go work with somebody else. Because I want you to be successful, and I think we have to encourage that amongst our companies.
Yeah. And I mean, is it always the case if you invest in a startup that you also do business with them and generate revenues for them?
No. No, that's not always the case. I think there's some, because we're investing at such an early stage, there's some stuff, yes, that we are doing business with. There's other stuff that we're referring to elsewhere in our supply chain. We think it could help us, but it's not something we do business with. And there's other things that are simply too far away or too not adjacent enough to what we're already doing, that there's not an opportunity for us to partner now, but we think it's something that could evolve in the future.
Diego, what do you think? Do we have enough good startups in Europe for you, for a big utility and your appetite for innovation? Or do you have to look outside of Europe because there's not enough? You have mentioned that you invested in a couple of American startups. Everybody knows here America is very innovative, but we are in Europe, aren't we?
I think we do have very good startups in Europe.
Yeah.
I don't think the reason for looking elsewhere is that there are no good startups in Europe. I think we do have them. There are some markets in the US that have all the conditions for startups to flourish from a regulatory perspective. So that's the main reason why we actually invest in some of them in the US, but not because we don't have good startups in Europe. I think on the contrary, specifically in markets like where you have a very good innovative approach like National Grid here in the UK for flexibility services and so on, you see a startup flourishing based on that market. So we believe that there are very good startups in Europe, and we have done more than 60% of our investments in Europe and only 40% in the US. And also there is another good thing in terms of investment in Europe, which is that in the US specifically in a few areas, evaluations are just crazy and most of the times unjustified. Whereas in Europe, I think we are starting to have a reasonably good investment community. Still quite early stage and less developed that probably we should, but not overheated artificially, at least in our perspective. So that gives us a competitive advantage as Europe for the startup ecosystem versus the US, in our opinion, when we talk about sustainability in the long run.
Fabio, I want to ask you, give us a little bit of advice how a startup, maybe one of, or maybe all the startups in the room and some in the audience of Ecosummit TV, how do they best approach Enel? How should they prepare their pitch to you, and who are the right people to talk to? And what advice can you give for a small company to get into open innovation business with you?
Okay, so first of all, the right person to contact is probably me, because I'm heading all of the startup initiative and the scouting of startups, me and my team, of course, and all of the hub managers that we have around the world in the places where I told you before. We have a website which is called www.openinnovability.enel.com, and it's a platform of open innovation and sustainability, innovability, which is the crisis of the two things. And you can actually put your application there, answering to the challenges that we are launching or calls that we are launching, or also new ideas. We are super happy to do that. And once you contact us, then what we do is we just do a very brief evaluation, very high level evaluation of the proposal. Of course, needs to be a pitch, a business plan, and I'm not going to explain this. I think everybody knows how to do their best job, and then we take this and we take it to our business line, because in each of the business line that we have in Enel, we have an innovation department, which is within the business line. They have project managers within the business line. They have budget within the business line, and so once they decide for a collaboration, you convince them to collaborate, then the collaboration will happen.
Okay. Now it's time for more collaboration and networking during the coffee break. I'm closing this panel, and thank you very much for listening. Yes.